Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho. It is a Wednesday, the 26th day of March, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. House prosecutors have asked Senate President Cheese Escudero to issue a writ of summons for Vice President Sara Duterte. The request seeks to require her response to the articles of impeachment. The U.S. is reportedly preparing to deploy a second Typhoon missile battery, but will it be headed to the Philippines? The Office of the Ombudsman has suspended Marikina Mayor Marcy Teodoro, Vice Mayor Marian Andres, and more than 10 city councilors for 6 months without pay. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda. House prosecutors have filed a motion requesting Senate President Cheese Escudero to issue a writ of summons for Vice President Sara Duterte. The motion aims to compel the Vice President to submit her response to the articles of impeachment. Here's the report.
House Minority Leader Nonoy Libanan led House prosecutors in filing a motion urging Senate President Cheese Escudero to compel Vice President Sara Duterte to respond to the articles of impeachment within 10 days of receipt. The Senate accepted the motion on Tuesday morning. According to the calendar released by Escudero, the presentation of the articles of impeachment is set for June 2, followed by the issuance of summons on June 4.
June 4 is not 10 days, napakalayo po niyan. Parang ginigising lang namin, ito yung rules ninyo po. Kung may power sila o wala, we are not pressuring. We are doing our job.
Joining Libanan in filing the entry with motion to issue summons in the Senate were fellow prosecutors One Rider Party List Representative Raj Gutierrez, Deputy Majority Leader Paulo Ortega, and Assistant Majority Leader Jay Conghon. The prosecutor stood firm on the Senate's constitutional mandate to begin the impeachment trial of the Vice President forthwith as soon as possible. It has already been nearly 2 months since February 5, when the House transmitted a verified impeachment complaint against VP Sara Duterte to the Senate. The prosecutor signed the motion on March 14 but delayed filing it as they believed the Senate was on break.
Apparently, nagkaroon po sila ng hearing last Thursday nung committee ni Senadora Amy. Ibig sabihin, nagtatrabaho pa rin po ang Senado.
Currently, VP Sara is in The Hague, Netherlands to assist her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, who is facing crimes against humanity charges at the International Criminal Court. If the Senate issues a summons while she is still abroad, Duterte may submit her response through the nearest consulate.
Former President Duterte's children have filed replies to the Supreme Court against the government's claim that their petition is moot. Vice President Sara Duterte, Representative Paulo Duterte, and Kitty Duterte argue that the petition for their father's release is still valid despite ICC custody. The three claim the former president's arrest and transfer to the ICC were illegal and violate Philippine judicial procedures. Still, the Justice Department maintains that the government's cooperation with Interpol was legal and denies claims of kidnapping the former president. The ICC has scheduled a hearing on September 23 to confirm charges against Duterte. Some OFWs in Europe are reportedly planning a zero remittance week in protest against the arrest and transfer of former President Rodrigo Duterte to the International Criminal Court. Let's get more details from Jovi Francisco, who joins us live from The Hague in Netherlands. Magandang umaga, magandang madaling araw dyan mula sa Netherlands.
Good morning, Gretchen. Regarding that zero remittance plan pa lang, kinokasir ko sa na plan pa lang, Gretchen. Kasi of course, we heard one group from the supporters ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte ang nagsabi nito, yung someone from Croatia. And we heard that yung plan na yan, doon pa lang sa meet and greet. Pero wala namang gusto magpa-interview ng diretso. I mean, pumayag sa magpa-interview sa SMNI, pero kapag tinatanong mo yung mga OFWs ay hindi yung mga nandiyan sa crowd na yan, they don't want to comment about it. So we're basing that news from yung naging deklarasyon ng isang Filipino na maglilid daw doon sa Croatia. Okay, so I think, well, kanina we were trying to look for him doon sa crowd in front of the penitentiary because we saw him 2 days ago doon pero hindi na namin siya nakita, Gretchen, kaninang maghapon. Ano? So hindi natin alam kung kahit na dineklara niya na ito ay kung talaga bang may solid decision from yung ibang mga organizations na kaalyad.
Actually, Joey, narinig din natin yan mula sa ating kaibigan mula sa London naman that they're also planning this zero remittance week. But to your understanding, what is the goal of this supposed plan? Of course, it is a show of support for the former president, but in the overall effect that it could bring to the country and to the economy, ano yung pagkakaintindi mo rito? Bakit ito yung klase ng protesta na gusto nilang gawin?
Because, we've always been acknowledging the fact na lalo pag end of year, ang laki-laki ng nagagawa ng remittances to help our economy, di ba, Gretchen? Well, kung meron mang power ang mga OFWs, iyan yun. At gusto nga nilang, gusto nung, ito, at least yung parte ng mga supporters, we're not saying lahat ng OFW sa buong mundo kasi iba-iba rin naman ang paniniwala nila. At least dito sa mga supporters ito, they want the government to feel na meron silang gustong ihatid na sentiment tungkol sa kondisyon ngayon ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Pero the thing is, I think soon enough they will realize after all the yung mga naging opinion dito ng mga eksperto na sa ekonomiya at saka sa eksperto rin pagdating sa OFW affairs na kung meron mo magiging epekto ay ang unang tatamaan nito ay yung pamilya nila mismo, Gretchen. Kasi kung hindi ka magpapadala kahit 1 week sa kanila parang paano yung needs nila. Diba? Parang hindi naman agad maramdaman ng gobyerno yon o natin bilang bansa. Pero ang unang makakaramdam daw, based sa mga opinion ng mga experts, ay yung mga kaanak na naghihintay ng remittance na yon at tulong at ganansya o yung mga ipinapadala nga sa kanila ng kanilang kaanak na nasa ibang bansa.
Actually, meron nga tayo nakikita online na parang i-adjust na lang nila. Kung magpapadala sila sa linggong ito, dadamihan na lang nila. Tapos yung linggo na magpoprotesta sila, dun wala. Para daw hindi maapektuhan yung pamilya. Pero I'm not sure if that has an effect at all because kung papasok pa rin siya doon sa record nung quarter na yon o nung buwan na yon, diba?
Exactly.
Oo.
Kumbaga, parang nagkaroon lang ng adjustment doon sa pagpapadala pero naipadala pa din. Okay. So, may papadala pa din o naipadala pa din kung advancement or delay yung pagpapadala nila. Mapapadala pa din. So, ang mag-a-adjust ngayon yung pamilya na naghihintay nun. Hindi agad yung gobyerno yung affected.
Well, Jovi, punta naman tayo dun sa ating unang story for today. House prosecutors have filed a motion before the Senate President to issue a writ of summons for Vice President Sara Duterte to answer the articles of impeachment. Any update on the Vice President kung kailan siya uuwi? Siya ba ay nakita mo during the day sa labas ng penitentiary?
That's my assignment kanina Gretchen. Kasi di ba ilang araw na namin nakakausap si Vice President Sara Duterte sa meet and greet at saka sa ambush interview namin sa penitentiary the day after. So yesterday we were waiting for her kasi nga merong ganyang development. Pero hindi siya dumating. Wala rin yung lawyer. So although ang huli niyang sinabi about yung kanyang pagbabalik ay doon sa soundbite na tinatalakay niya. Kumbaga binibigyan niya ng reason or ang reason why she's still here ay dahil hindi pa nga buo yung legal team at kailangan niya pang i-vet itong mga listahan na sinasabit sa kanila at gusto niya makakabalik na siya dyan o kaya ay pwedeng hindi bitiwan na niya kapag buo na yung team at hindi pa lumalabas based sa pinaka-latest na interview natin sa kanya. Although ilang beses na sinabi yung pa rin yung latest na estado ng paghahanap ng mga lawyers, which is the main reason why she can't go back to the Philippines pa or agad-agad. So, hopefully later makita natin kasi alam mo naman, Gretchen, na allowed siya na pumunta dyan araw-araw at kailangan niyang sulitin dahil pagdating dito ng mga kapatid niya at ng ibang kaanak niya, isusuko niya yung right na yon to visit para doon sa pamilya niya. So, parang ina-expect namin talaga kahapon, or ito maghapon na nakalipas, na pupunta siya kasi sinusulit niya yung oras niya, pero we didn't see her. Ang nakita natin doon ay si Senator Robin Hood Padilla lang at saka yung mga supporters nila sa labas ng penitentiary.
Yun mukhang mangyayari yung visit na yan no, on March 28, the birthday of the former president. Yun nga, magpapalitan sila. No? Pero curious to know then also, but maybe you can ask the Vice President when you see her, ano ba yung rules na pagdating sa visiting? Hindi ba pwede silang sabay-sabay, mag-party sa loob? I mean, bakit isa-isa lang? Pwede ba yung dalawa? Paano yun?
Apparently, isa-isa. Kasi talaga sinabi niya siguro twice sa both interviews with her na she will need to give way yung kanyang yung slot niya para makapasok yung ibang mga kaanak. So hindi sila pwedeng sabay-sabay apparently. So
We are
di ba alam
expecting,
yung lawyer allowed to do it, tas allowed din ng relatives, pero mukhang hindi sabay-sabay yung relatives.
We are expecting Kitty Duterte and Elizabeth Zimmerman to be there. And di natin sigurado kung today magpapakita dyan. No? So abangan mo, Jovi. We do know it's 1 a.m. there. There's a lot to come for your day. But in the meantime, maraming salamat for giving us an update. That was Jovi. Yeah, go ahead.
Hindi, para lang alam natin na may update tungkol doon sa postings ng ICC at medyo technical to at hindi naman ito yung masyadong bibigyan ng pansin, pero we just want to tell them na in light of all the petitions there in the Philippines ay dito gumugulong na yung sistema aside from na pibigay ng deadline doon sa sa PROSEC at saka doon sa defense teams ng ICC na bigay ng deadline sa kanila ng mga submissions sila, lumalabas doon sa latest posting which is March 25 ay 24 ng gabi hanggang magti-25 na that the PROSEC panel already submitted 181 items. Karamihan doon ay confidential in nature pero to be shared by both teams. So kumbaga yung PROSEC ay tuloy-tuloy yung submission even before the deadline. At yun nga, ang contrast doon, yung kabilang panel ay nagpo-form pa sila at binubuo pa yung legal team, Gretchen.
Okay, so that's ahead of the April 4 deadline for the prosecution and the April 11 deadline naman for the defense of the former president. Thank you so much for that update, Jovi. That was our senior editor reporting to us live from The Hague in Netherlands. Maraming salamat. Meanwhile, still on the ICC, Senator Bato de la Rosa claims his security detail in Davao City has been withdrawn. He suspects the move may be linked to rumors that he could be the target or the next target of an ICC arrest warrant. De La Rosa says he understands the government's decision but remains prepared for any scenario. He adds that over 10 retired policemen and soldiers have volunteered to be his new security team. However, the PNP refutes reports of a security pullout with its Public Information Office, dismissing the claim as fake news. Malacanang, for its part, had this to say.
Nasaan po ba kasi si Senator Bato? Baka kasi po nawala po siya. So hindi naman pwedeng tumambay lamang po yung security nang wala po siya. Siguro po pagka siya yung nagpakita po, hindi naman po yan magiging problema.
Don't go away. We will be back with more stories right after the break. Welcome back to So Watching Morning Matters here on One News. The United States is said to be gearing up for the deployment of a second Typhoon missile battery. Now the question arises, will it eventually be sent to the Philippines? Here's the report.
U.S.-based news site Defense News suggests that the U.S. Army is preparing to deploy a second Typhoon missile battery, expected to be stationed in Hawaii this year. This comes following Washington's deployment of its first Typhoon mid-range capability missile system to the Philippines nearly a year ago. To this day, it remains in an undisclosed location in Luzon. Although there is no confirmation yet on whether the second typhoon missile launchers will eventually be deployed again to the Philippines, the armed forces of the Philippines have already said that they are open to accepting them.
The more, the merrier, no? So the more assets that we have, the more also that we are able to train more personnel on our part. So, tinatanggap po natin to willingly.
The Typhoon missile system has a range of 500 to 2,000 kilometers, capable of striking targets in the South China Sea. This is why China has repeatedly criticized the deployment of U.S. missiles in the Philippines, claiming that it provokes conflict.
The defense posture of the Republic of the Philippines is not designed against any other country. It is an action of a sovereign state. Other countries, especially Chinese Communist Party, has not been abiding by international law. They have been disrupting the region.
For international affairs analyst Renato De Castro, the continued strengthening of the Philippines' defense with the help of the United States is a major advantage. He also said the country should not be influenced by China's reaction.
We should never give China a veto when it comes to our defense policy.
News 5 has attempted to get a statement from the U.S. Embassy in Manila regarding this issue, but they refuse to provide details on any military operations.
Marikina Mayor Marcy Teodoro, Vice Mayor Marion Andres, and over 10 city councilors have been suspended for 6 months without pay by the Office of the Ombudsman. The officials face both criminal and administrative complaints, including allegations of corruption and malversation of public funds. Teodoro denounced the suspension as politically motivated, claiming it aims to derail his candidacy in the May elections. He also vowed to fight the charges and warned of potential disruptions to city services due to the official suspension. Palace says that President Marcos is, quote, slightly affected by the spread of fake news in the country. Recently, a photo of First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos sparked controversy, with critics claiming it was edited to cover up her alleged absence from the country. Malacanang has strongly denied these claims, calling them part of a continued campaign of disinformation against the president.
Ever since, tinatarget na sila ng fake news. Hindi to bago. Simula nang hindi naging maayos ang pagtingin ni VP Sara sa pamilya Marcos, nag-start na po ang fake news. In a way, he is slightly affected. So that's why they asked the PCO to do its job to counter fake news. Not only for himself, but for the country.
Meanwhile, the ICT spokesperson Aboy Paraiso bared new measures to fight fake news online. He revealed partnerships with social media platforms to label AI-generated content and enhance fact-checking efforts. The ICT also plans to utilize a system to monitor social media trends and detect misinformation.
What we do now in government is forge a partnership and a collaboration with the social media platforms. We also are now looking into the fact-checking and debunking entities.
Well, that's it for the first part of the program. Stay tuned. More on Morning Matters right after this short break. I'm Gretchen Ho, and this is Morning Matters. Today's top story covers the House prosecutor's call for the Senate President to summon Vice President Sara Duterte to answer her impeachment charges. We also reported on the government's plans to combat online disinformation. And to discuss that, along with other pressing matters, of course, politics, we have re-electionist Senator Francis Tolentino joining us on Morning Matters today. Welcome both to our show.
Morning, good morning. Morning to the listeners, viewers likewise of Morning Matters.
Okay, Senator, first of all, let's talk about what's happening now in the headlines over at The Hague in Netherlands. The Duterte siblings have filed their comment with the Supreme Court on the writ of habeas corpus, countering government's claim that this is actually moot and academic already. I mean, taking a look at the whole situation and yung mga petitions po na sa Korte Suprema, what can a Supreme Court decision do at this point?
Well, not to preempt what the High Tribunal can release, perhaps any resolution coming out can serve as a guidance for future similarly situated cases that would arise.
Pero sa inyong pananaw, meron pa po bang paraan para mapauwi ang dating Pangulo? I mean, pag naglabas ng desisyon ng Korte Suprema, will that do anything at all?
Persuasive. Siguro. Malayo na wala nang jurisdiction. But I don't want to preempt, being also a member of the bar, out of respect. Sub judice na to Siguro hindi ko masagot yun.
Pero yun nga, kasi yung sinasabi ng ibang lawyer na parang medyo moot and academic na. No? Pag sinabi nating merong desisyon ng Korte Suprema, wala na, nandun na nasa Hague na
Yeah. So, antayin na lang natin kung anong ilalabas ng Supreme Court.
All right. The Duterte camp has cited that this is an abduction, a kidnapping. In your view as a lawyer, do you think anything was bypassed in the way that the former president was arrested?
With the current emotional fervor, which probably has divided the nation, siguro. And again, you're correct. As a lawyer, I cannot comment on anything that would further exacerbate the emotional conditions we have now. So hayaan na lang natin yung proseso. Nabalitaan naman natin sa The Hague na pinadala na ng prosecutor yung package 002 or 001 patungkol doon sa mga ebidensya. So may proseso na po yun doon. So lampas na po sa kamay natin yung panahon na magkomento na dapat ganito, dapat ganito.
Pero kayo po, as a lawmaker and as a senator and as a former ally of the former president, ano pong
Kaibigan ko pa rin.
Nararamdaman po ninyo na nakita nyo
opo,
na
malungkot tayo.
nandun na sa Hague?
Malungkot tayo. Offered prayers. I happened to be near the Basilica in Cebu. So nagdasal din po tayo. Nagdasal din po tayo kay Presidente BBM. Nagdasal din po tayo para sa bansang Pilipinas.
So you're not in favor of him being sent to the Hague?
I cannot comment on that. Kasi sinasabi ko noon, if you look at the records 3 years ago, I have been very consistent na walang jurisdiction.
Tama po kayo, no? Sabi nyo nga yan repeatedly that you believe that the ICC has no jurisdiction to handle this case and that it should be in local courts. But hindi po ba sa RA 9851, it's a separate law that says that we can dispense with the investigation.
You're referring to the
in the interest of justice, Section 17, the relevant Philippine authorities may dispense with the investigation punishable under this act, yung crimes against humanity, if another court or international tribunal is already conducting the investigation. Hindi po ba nandun naman yun? So in that sense, it's still legal.
Yeah,
right?
You answered your own question. I think that law was passed during the time of President GMA, if I'm not mistaken. So, tama ka rin. Tama ka rin.
So pwede rin, maaaring pwede rin magkaroon ng jurisdiction dito sa investigation yung ICC.
You answered your own question.
Okay. Senator naman. All right. You once offered your legal services to Senator Bato de la Rosa.
No. He was the one who raised that possibility years ago. So, as a member of the bar, sabi ko, may canons kasi kami na hindi mo dapat ikait yung pagbibigay ng serbisyong legal sa mga nangangailangan. So during those days, 2 or 3 years ago, COVID pa ata. So positive ako noon. Pero last year, I think I saw a news report na napalitan na ako ni Attorney Roque. So wala pa naman ako naririnig kay Senator De La Rosa. Pero kung sakaling hihingi siya ng advice kung ano yung gagawin, alam mo, meron ako, Gretchen, na Philippine Justice Legal Center providing free legal advice, OFWs, yung mga nangangailangan. Bukas pa yun kahit kaninong Pilipino. So kung hihingi siya ng tulong bilang isang abogado, malaking posibilidad.
Mukhang siya po ay nagtatago ngayon. I mean, ano yung inyong magiging, kung kayo ay tatanungin, ano pong maging advice niyo? Ituloy lang niyo ba yun? Kasi si Senator Chis Escudero has said that, for example, Senator Ping Lacson, nagtago siya abroad for 2 years to exhaust his legal remedies. Would you advise the same?
Ang ina-advise mo, ang tanong mo sa akin, advise mo bang magtago na lang siya?
Hindi, tinatanong ko, ano po ang advice niyo? Kung kayo po ay mabibigyan
Unang-una, wala pa naman tayong pruweba na may warrant na eh. So, nangangampanya siya, incumbent legislator siya, so perform lang niya yung trabaho niya, yung pangangailangan. So, and then siguro bilang dating law enforcer, alam naman niya siguro yung mga dapat gawin. But kung hihingan niya ako ng advice, ulitin ko yung tanong mo kanina, for the third time, yung answer ko, I can offer my own advice. Pero wala namang text or tawag naman siya.
But you would you advise
Condone,
him to
tolerate, that
to hide for the meantime? I mean, given that the petitions are pending before the Supreme Court.
There are siguro on his own personal perception, there might be perceived safety, quote-unquote, reasons why he should go into hide. Hindi ko na alam yun. Hindi ko na siya nakakausap. Huli ko siya nakausap nung bago kami mag-adjourn. When I was asking him to push for the ROTC bill, which is also close to my heart.
The Senate President has said that hindi niya papayagan na kunin si Senator Bato sa loob ng Senado. I mean, with your knowledge, gaano katagal po kaya maaaring magstay si Senator Bato? Sakasakali po.
Nasa na yan? Nasa call na yan ni Senate President Chis.
Kahit walang session, pwede po siya sa loob?
Pwede naman yan. May institutional respect naman sa Senado na hindi pwedeng basta pasukin. So, nangyari na yan. Maraming beses na. So, nasa call na yan ng Senate President.
Maraming beses na with who else?
Siguro yung mga dating senador noon, di ba? May mga as a news person.
Yeah, kay Senator Trillanes.
Yes, So, may mga presidents na yan. So, baka ganun ang ini-invoke niya.
Okay. Also, because you've offered legal help to the former senator, to the sitting senator, ano po yung tingin niyo dito sa ICC? I mean, ano po yung klaseng depensa would be best for the former president? Kasi nakausap natin, galing tayo sa Hague, nakausap natin ng vice-presidente. Sabi niya, galing ako doon.
Kaya nga, you know better than me.
Binubuo yung legal team, kasi noong una, parte si Atty. Harry Roque doon. Tapos eventually, parang hindi na siya naging parte. Sinabi ni VP na naghahanap pa sila ng mga ICC competent lawyers. But ano sa tingin nyo yung would be the best composition of that team?
Siguro yung experience na. Experience litigators doon sa yung accredited litigators sa ICC. And then, I cannot comment on that kasi iba yung rules doon eh. Iba yung procedure doon eh. So, kung ang pinag-aaralan siguro nila how to invoke Article 60 or 59 of the Rome Statute, debatable. Bahala na yung legal team nila. But as long as the former president is given what the correct notion of transnational due process is, yun po siguro.
You are the vice chairman of the Dangerous Drugs Committee, I believe.
Hindi ko na matandaan.
Public Order and Dangerous Drugs.
Marami siguro.
Marami nga po. You are currently the vice chairman of that.
One of the vice
Secretary Remulla has admitted that 95% of the deaths under investigation have no police records. Kaya mahihirapang mag-imbestiga dito sa Pilipinas. Do you think that a credible investigation into the former administration's war on drugs could be credibly held here in the Philippines?
Of course. We have, nabanggit ko naman yan eh. Hindi ko narinig yung kay Secretary Boying na statement. Hindi ko na, I'm not aware of that. Pero kaya naman ng mga, buhay naman ang husgado natin.
Pero siya mismo umamin na mahihirapan.
We respect that. We respect that opinion.
So, I mean, if you respect that opinion, then do you believe that the ICC could hold an investigation that would be credible at least, I mean, to bring justice to the drug war victims?
I am also looking at the what I mentioned a while ago, how the other side, the defense, can be given that transnational due process.
Sa Interpol po?
No, in that proceeding sa ICC.
Kasi
Sa lahat, both sides, kailangan yung due process. So, we're now dealing into the merits of the case. You're now dealing with evidence. You're now dealing with the procedure. So, let the process just evolve.
Kasi sinasabi po ng mga pamilya ng mga EJK victims, buti pa to si PRRD ay dadaan sa due process. Your thoughts on that?
Ano naman? Ito ngang warrant is marami nagsasabi na nabigyan ng kahit papanong recognition yung hinahabol nila. So, nandun na yan eh. Beyond our control na yung ibang mangyayari dito. So, may process naman. So, siguraduhin lang fair. Again, impartial, objective. Yung standard naman ng due process has been elevated into an international level na sana maging transparent, lahat ng ebidensya ay may karapatan din ng dating presidente na madibang. Yun naman magpipresent, ganun din. So, we're now going into the process and the merits of the case. So, siguro...
Pero kayo po personally, do you agree with the drug war of the former president?
That was his campaign mantra, which he promised to fulfill. So, you know better than me.
So, do you agree?
Kayo yung nagko-cover niyan.
PDP laban po kayo noon.
Kayo yung nagko-cover niyan, di ba? So, kayo makakasagot
kayo po, ano po pananaw nyo? Kayo ay sitting senator.
Let history decide siguro. For every statements made now, siguro, ang gusto ko ma-avoid is to further fan the flames of divisiveness. Mas gusto ko magkaisa yung bansa eh. Ba't ba gusto natin?
Unity.
Ba't gusto natin mag-away-away tayo? Hindi naman. Unity and justice can go alongside.
So do you think justice can be had here? I mean, with what's going on?
Yes. Ang kailangan, isa lang ang Pilipinas. Bakit ba gusto natin away-away lagi? Di ba? We only have one flag. We only have one administration. We only have one Philippines. Ang dami natin problema din di ba?
Yan po ay tinatanong ko dahil kayo po ay tumatakbo, re-election as senator. In the last survey, I believe you were at number 18, SWS, right?
Yes.
What has been the challenge of your campaign?
Ganon din naman ako dati. Yung mga lahat ng campaign ko, challenge probably would be to prove that you have done something. Challenge probably would be to prove that you have done something good for the nation. Challenge would be for the people to realize the importance of laws that I have initiated. For instance, the Maritime Zones Law Act, the Archipelagic Sea Lanes Law. Challenge probably would be how to expound on why there is a need for a multilateral approach vis-a-vis the West Philippine Sea situation, which has never been brought to light, laymanized. That's a challenge.
Correct, you were at the forefront of that, and we saw you, and we've had you several times on our platforms
That's the
to talk
challenge.
about the West Philippine
Hindi
Sea.
dapat makalimutan yun.
O pero pag kayo po ay bumababa sa tao, ito po ba ay mahalaga sa kanila? O naiintindihan nila?
mahalaga.
O nagre-resonate sa kanila as an election issue?
Mahalaga sabi na, you mentioned SWS, di ba sabi na SWS, 78% daw, naniniwala yung WPS is an election issue. Siguro more than 78% naniniwala, mahal ang kuryente natin. At pag nakuha natin yung yaman sa dagat, natural gas sa West Philippine Sea, bababa yung presyo ng kuryente.
Pero bakit po kaya medyo hirap tayo mag-break through the Magic 12?
Iba naman yung methodology nun eh. We don't mas mahalaga siguro yung elections.
Kasi isa pong nakapagtataka po yun eh. I mean, kung united tayo dito sa West Philippine Sea issue,
You know better than me.
Diba?
You know better than me. You should know.
so how is your campaign adjusting with the results?
We're still good. We're still looking at Calabarzon, where my family hails. My niece is the governor, and governor of Cavite. We're looking at other places. So, yun ang kampanya talaga. At the same time, trying to answer difficult questions that you're propounding. Siguro, wala ka na naimbita na iba.
Pero kasi mukhang ito ang, yung mga tinanong ko po sa inyo kanina, parang ito yung nagre-resonate ngayon sa mga voters.
Sabi ko nga sa staff niya, try to invite other candidates. Especially the incumbents o kung sino man.
We've tried.
Sino lang ang
Marami po sa kanila ay umiiwas.
Nandito si Tol. Walang iniiwasan na sagot para maintindihan ng mga kababayan natin kung ano yung mga issue na dapat harapin at kung ano yung mga issue na dapat matatak sa kanilang kaisipan bago sila bumoto.
So naniniwala po kayo na tama yung nangyari kay President Duterte?
Transparent ako eh. Transparent
Sabi niyo
ako.
wala kayong iniiwasan.
Hindi, transparent ako. Hindi ako umiwas sa interview
Sabi niyo
niyo.
no comment.
Alin doon?
Doon sa kay ano?
Yung procedural yun eh. Yung you mentioned a law, I think you're correct. I mentioned the notion of transnational due process which has never been raised before.
Okay. You cited principal differences over the West Philippine Sea as your reason for leaving PDP Laban. Do you think that was the deal breaker, the real deal breaker, that was enough of a deal breaker to break away?
I think so. Kasi tama na sa akin yung ano eh. Mas gitin mo ngayon. I still believe in the concept of United Nations. Nations. We deal with the nations. The law of the sea, it involves hundreds of signatories. Diba? So hindi lang China yung kausap natin eh. Kausap natin ang Japan, kausap natin South Korea. Bakit tayo makikipag-usap lang sa isang bansa? That's why I realized that what the president, the incumbent president, has been doing is correct. You deal with this issue on a multilateral basis. Ito ngayon, may impending agreement tayo with France. Kasunod na yung Germany. Ang dami na natapos natin. Reciprocal access agreement with Japan, which I pushed. So, lahat po ito ay magpapatunay na yung problema natin sa West Philippine Sea ay dapat kaagapay lahat yung maraming bansa. Again, United Nations with an S, _S.
But,
Plural. Plural.
United Nations, multilateral.
Yes.
You've been espousing for that. But
Yes.
but also medyo kung titingnan mo rin, iba yung naging posisyon ng Duterte administration, kaya nga po kayo umalis mula sa
evolving
PDP
yun.
Laban.
You do not do that on the first day. Siguro as a chief executive, as the architect of Philippine foreign policy, nakikita mo nag-evolve yun eh. Sometimes yung approach ganito, like for instance, the Biden administration has been persistent in having a NATO-led alliance for Ukraine. Pero ngayon, iba na. So it evolves. It evolves. So, ganun din siguro yung approach nung previous administration. Nagbabago eh. Nagbabago. So, ako naman, sinasabi ko, we've had since 1951 a multilateral mutual defense treaty with the United States. So, nandun na yun eh, historically and traditionally anchored on what we have with the United States. So, kaagapay na lahat yung ibang bansa.
Kaya nga po aking natanong kung that was enough of a deal breaker.
Yes,
Because
yes.
in 2016, kayo po ay tumakbo bilang senador. Hindi po kayo ipinala doon. 2019, in-endorse po kayo ng dating presidente.
2013,
Duterte,
I think
nanalo po kayo.
was on the fringes.
Pero noong 2019 po kayo nanalo.
Your brother was my lawyer.
Oo. Noong 2019, nanalo po kayo with PRRD, with PDP Laban. Hindi po kayo nagsisisi na umalis kayo ng PDP Laban?
Siguro sa akin, ano muna yung tama para sa Pilipinas. Tama para sa Pilipino. Tama para sa Pilipino ay kaibiganin natin ang mas maraming bansa para nang sa ganon, mas matibay ang ating soberenya, mas matatag ang ating teritoryo, at mas matibay tayo sa mata ng buong mundo.
Nakausap natin si Senator Robin Padilla sa The Hague. Sabi niya, isa sa mga pakay niya doon ay bilang presidente ng PDP Laban, gusto niya makausap ang dating Pangulo to understand where their party is going. I mean, what would the PDP Laban
Hindi ko na alam siguro
campaign
yun.
look like without
Hindi ko
the
na
former
alam.
president?
Hindi ko na alam po yan. Hindi na po ako miyembro nun. So, mas marami ka nalalaman. Kailan ka ba dumating?
No Friday lang.
Oh, yung pa. Mas marami ka nalalaman. Oh.
Sige, puntahan natin ang...
May jet lag ka pa.
Puntahan po natin itong mga batas na sinusulong po ninyo. If you are re-elected as senator again, ano pa yung mga unfinished business ninyo?
I'm looking forward to having that the amendment of Section 108 and 109 of the National Internal Revenue Code, which would remove the value-added tax for electricity, which would be a game changer insofar as lowering the prices of some basic goods. Bababa yung frozen hotdog, yung mga bababa, yung mga frozen chicken, bababa yung presyo ng increase the purchasing power of ordinary consumers. Number two, I look forward to having a gig economy law. I espoused this, filed a bill before, pero may resistance. This has something to do with our delivery riders. Started during the pandemic, lockdown. Mga riders natin, deliver ng kape nyo, wala namang sweldo yan. Walang PhilHealth yan, walang SSS yan, walang overtime pay, walang Christmas bonus, commission basis yan. Di-deliver sa bahay ni Gretchen, 2 a.m., kape.
So special loan?
Law.
Ah, okay. To protect their welfare.
Recognize them as a part of the formal economy. Number three, siguro I look forward to crafting. I have a draft of a West Philippine Sea Economic Zone Act, which would really fortify what we have laid down in that bill, in that law that I sponsored, the Philippine Maritime Zones Law. This would increase the penalties for violators of our fishing laws, maritime entitlements, etc., etc. Number two, I look forward to having a law that would enable the Philippines, our government, to put up sustainable human settlements in the islands we claim in the West Philippine Sea. I can term that as a West Philippine Sea Settlement Act, which would provide for settlements. Because right now, tinitirhan lang ng ilan nating kababayan sa Kalayaan lang. What about Patag? What about Lawak? What about the other islands? Na kine-claim natin na atin talaga. So, kailangan magkaroon na yan ng human settlements. We provide infrastructure, we provide agriculture, support. We provide population. It was done before by President Magsaysay. Ang daming mga kababayan natin from the north na nilipat sa Sultan Kudarat, nilipat sa Jensan, yung Soksar dyan ngayon. Kaya makikita mo, maraming mga kababayan tayong Ilocano, nandun sila. Magkakasama na Ilonggo and Ilocano hanggang ngayon. So we can replicate that. We can have viable human settlements populated by Filipinos in the areas we're claiming right now to make it really a Philippine territory. Kasi hanggang ngayon si China gusto pang kunin yung Palawan. Kaya siguro kung magbabakasyon ka, Gretchen, consider Palawan para makita. Although pabalik-balik ka siguro sa Palawan. Consider yung mga kababayan natin, consider Palawan as itong Easter holidays para makita natin sa buong mundo na atin talaga ang Palawan para sa Pilipinas, para sa Pilipino.
Kita ko po yung gigil ninyo nung sinabi niyo yan. Pero marami pa tayong tatanungin tungkol dyan actually sa mga nabanggit yung batas. But we have to take this short break. Don't go away. More matters to discuss right after the break. Keep it here on One News.
Let's go.
We're still joined here on Morning Matters by re-electionist Senator Francis Tolentino. Onto the West Philippine Sea, we're at the forefront or one of the main proponents of two major laws passed on the West Philippine Sea, yung Philippine Maritime Zones Act, pati yung Archipelagic Sea Lanes. Ang tanong ko po dyan ay meron na po bang mapa na nagawa yung NAMRIA dito? Kasi yun yung talagang magsisilbing embodiment nung mga batas na yon.
Work in progress pa sila, and then we still have to get the imprimatur of the International Maritime Organization insofar as the Archipelagic Sea Lanes law is concerned. June pa yung nila, next session. Ambassador Teddy Boy Locsin is on board, so siya yung nagtutulak. Kailangan ma-aprobahan niya ng IMO. So yun lang yung batas na alam ko na kailangan may approval yung international.
How long is that process going to be? Kasi yun yung parang naging debate with Congressman Marcoleta nung sinabi niya wala namang West Philippine Sea sa international maps. At kung tinignan mo, tama naman. Dahil hindi pa siya officially recognized by the whole world. Pero gaano katagal kaya yung proseso na yun sa IMO?
Siguro hanggang December or
Kaya po yun
first quarter of next year. Yung Indonesia nagtagal nun kasi may question yung Australia. So ngayon siguro learning from the lessons of Indonesia, tinama natin ng maayos yung batas, yung pagbalangkas nun. In fact, yung mga resource persons ko noon from Australia rin and Indonesia. So tama na tayo doon. So siguro maaring tama siya pero sa Philippine Maritime Zones Law Act, for the first time, nilagay natin yung pangalang West Philippine Sea. Ilagay na natin sa batas. Wala dati ngayon. Pati yung kabila, yung Benham Rice, ni-rename natin na talampas ng Pilipinas. For the first time, ipangalan na rin yun. Although meron ng 4 underwater features na claim yung China, tayo ngayon ay naghahabol na mapangalanan lahat yon. So, simula pa lang naman yun na-approve yan November 8 So,
pero hindi po ba pag may dispute, medyo magtatagal talaga yan? I mean, there's a possibility it could not also be approved given the multiple claims.
It will be approved. It will be approved. You're referring to what?
Yung pag-recognize po ng West Philippine Sea ng international ng IMO.
Hindi, ito yan. Yung IMO, sila magre-recognize doon sa Archipelagic Sea Lanes, no? Kasi ito yung daanan. Yung sea
Pero po
lanes.
yung sa isa po.
Yung isa, ipapadala lang natin sa United Nations yun.
As a petition?
Yes. No, not a petition. For their information only. So, tayo na yung magsusukat.
Kasi yung global recognition of that side of the ocean as West Philippine Sea.
It's been recognized.
Pero wala pa po sa mapa, di po ba?
Yes, meron kasing UN Hydrological Cartographic Office or something. Sila yung bumabalangkas nun. Sila yung gumuguhit.
How soon do you think can we get that to happen?
Siguro, depende na yun doon sa kung sino yung representative natin sa UN ngayon. Si ambassador natin, sila na yung magtutulak nun.
Si PCO Secretary Jay Ruiz said that we should not give up parts of the West Philippine Sea, just like how we lost Sabah. Your thoughts on that?
Very controversial. We never lost Sabah. Sabah is still part of that. Although yung baseline law natin, siyempre magmumula sa baseline ng main archipelago natin. So, it's still part. Although, this is controversial, we're not in possession.
And there are claims that we have not given up on Sabah.
Yes.
So does that mean that we will see Sabah on the NAMRIA maps?
When we talk of the West Philippine Sea map, siguro yung mention ng Sabah hindi ganun ka-explicit. Because we're looking at yung exclusive economic zone.
So nandun siya pero walang pangalan?
Kasi magsisimula sa baseline natin. Ang baseline natin, siguro yung Palawan, Zambales, may baseline din yung may sariling baseline yung Sabah, protruding towards the contiguous zone, etc., etc. So magkaiba yon. Doon naku-confuse yung iba.
Doon po sa mapa, papaliwanag po ba natin alin doon ng territorial sea, EEZ?
Yes.
It's outlined.
Yes.
It's outlined already.
Yes, yeah, including the seabed.
Okay. What do you think about, I mean, kayo po yung, may binanggit kayo kanina, yung the West Philippine Sea Settlement Act.
Yes. That's my proposal.
Ang proposal po ninyo, magkaroon ng settlement doon sa mga maliliit na island.
Yes.
Pero kung titignan mo po, hindi po ba ang definition ng island is dapat self-sustaining siya before it can be recognized to have its own territorial sea. So paano po kaya sila titira doon sa mga patag and lawak na sandbar?
No,
I mean, wala
island po
masyadong...
yan. Island po yan.
Pero hindi, di
Island
ba
yan.
pag island, it's supposed to have its own food?
Yes, island po yan. I mean, for instance, lawak. Lawak is a natural habitat right now of migrant birds. So talaga may buhay doon. But you're confused siguro doon sa mga rocks. You're confused siguro doon sa mga yung ginawa na reclaimed area. Pero ito, natural habitat po ito. Nandun po yun sa 2016 arbitral ruling.
It can self-sustain human life.
Yes.
Ibig sabihin, pwede magtanim, pwede kang kumain.
Yes. Pwede kang magbakasyon doon. Pwede kang...
Pero hindi po ba sa Pag-asa, parang we also supply their provisions for food kasi kukulang yung kinakailangan. Just like anywhere else. So magiging ganun din po ang gusto nyo sa patag and lawak.
Magkaroon ng cold storage facilities for fishermen. Yung mga mangingisda natin, yung mga huli nila, pwedeng itambak doon. Magkaroon siguro ng tourism sites, magkaroon ng market for fisher folks. Hindi lang yung taguan nila pag bagyo. So magkaroon ng natural, human settlement, but funded by the government, and including marine and scientific research, which is allowed under the UNCLOS. So dapat meron lahat ganun. It should not just be a military garrison. It should be an avenue wherein young children can also study. Hindi lang yung anak ng sundalo. Talagang may tao, may barangay.
How do you think can we strengthen our claim over on the other side of the West Philippine Sea, doon po sa may Scarborough, given that China has already filed their baselines with the UN doon at medyo may scaling up of activity doon po sa Bajo de Masinloc?
That's why I proposed a month and a half ago, and I think you heard this from me, the creation of a West Philippine Sea Command to handle all of this. Kasi ngayon, yesterday we celebrated the 49th anniversary of the Westcom. Ito naman sa Bajo de Masinloc na binabanggit mo, NOLCOM yun. So, di ba tama lang na we just have one unified command for all of this in terms of assisting our fisher folks, in terms of asserting whatever entitlements we have. Yung baseline naman nila, hindi naman yun kasi sa shoal, hindi naman po pwede siguro yun. They cannot...
more alignment to protect the western part.
Unified response, unified command, and perhaps kasi may boundary ngayon Pag tumawid ka dun sa kabila, Westcom na. Pag tumawid ka dun sa kabila, NOLCOM na.
Ano po yung complications nun and ano po yung nagiging problema pag ganun?
We should have a unified response to all challenges being confronted not just by BIFAR, by our fisher folks, pati yung mga nagre-research. Isa lang yung West Philippine Sea. Isa lang yon. So, ang proposal ni Senator Tolentino,
Hindi po ba unified sa ngayon yung response?
Dalawa yung nag-handle, Northern Luzon and Westcom. So, isahin na lang. Tapos yung iba, maintain na lang doon sa territorial sea. Ang tinutukoy ko yung exclusive economic zone and the contiguous zone.
The U.S. Defense Secretary will be coming over here March 28. What could we expect from that? And are you for having a second Typhoon missile in the Philippines?
I think we'll come to realize the reiteration of the ironclad commitment of the United States. We expect several statements emanating not just from the Pentagon but from the Secretary himself. The Typhoon missile, siguro, si Presidente na yan. We support that initiative. Sinabi naman niya na pag hindi kayo alis dyan, meron din ito. We look forward to more vessels being given to the Coast Guard and the Navy. And on my part, I've been helping the PNP Maritime Command. We'll be having 3 new regional headquarters, one in Bungabong, Mindoro Oriental, one in Sulu, and one in Cebu. So ito yung sa littoral and territorial sea. So dapat 3 na. PNP Maritime Command, the Coast Guard, and the Navy. So lahat yan, tulong-tulong yan. So again, to answer your question, pagdating nung bagong Secretary of Defense, we expect a reiteration of commitment. We reiterate a more robust engagement in terms of traditional friendship, historical ties, and more collaborative efforts in terms of exchanges between the 2 armed forces, especially the Indo-Pacific Command.
A sign of continuity
Yes.
with Secretary Pete
You're
Hegseth
correct.
over
You're
in
correct.
the Philippines. That will be on March 28. In the meantime, abangan natin yan at aabangan din po natin ang mga susunod na kabanata ng inyong kampanya. Again, we have Senator Francis Tolentino, re-electionist senator, joining us on Morning Matters today. And that's it for today's episode. My name is Gretchen Ho. We are One News, all sides, all the time.